Hello, preppers. Welcome to the Prepper Podcast. It's a series of videos and podcasts where we have a bit of an unscripted chat about something prepper related. This week, we are talking about home defense and self-defense, as it were, in the UK. Because I know a lot of other countries, one of the main preps that people will do is firearms. Now, the firearms laws in the UK is a lot stricter. And you can only have certain types of firearms like shotguns and rifles, and only with the right licenses, members of the right clubs, etc., etc. So for most people, that's not very obtainable. But is that necessary? Is that going to be a problem, should the worst case scenario hits? That's what we've got to think about, because it's not a case of there's going to be no firearms in the UK, not by any stretch of the imagination. In 2018, a small arms survey estimated there were 978,000 unregistered firearms in England, Scotland, and Wales, along with another 53,000 in Northern Ireland. That's 2018. Apparently, it's dropped since then, but I couldn't find a more recent survey to reference. But there's going to be firearms out there, and unfortunately they're going to be in the hands of the people that are probably not prepared and not up for doing the community spirit come by ya thing. So when you're preparing some sort of home defense plan, I think one of the key things is stopping anyone actually wanting to target you is one of the main things. And if you are a target, to have multiple options where you can bug out or you can go into a safety area. That could be a panic room, not thinking you're going to have a full metal safe like, something off one of the movies, but a hidden room, shall we say, in your house maybe, that you can hide in as somebody loots, your tins of beans, hopefully with a separate stash in there so you're okay. But what you should think about is these firearms are going to be out there, and if they're not in your possession, what are you going to do? So my first port of call would be securing your house solidly, like a bar across the front door. Make sure you've got mounts in place ready to put a bar there. Shutters on the windows would be ideal, but if not shutters, then definitely some sort of cardboard on the back to help insulation, boarding possibly if you can, but do that on the inside. So at a glance from the outside, it just looks like a normal window, unless they're really looking. Blackout curtains, stop any light getting out. You want them to think it's another house on the block. It's empty. It's, that's basically what you want the situation to pan out like. And if they do try to get in your front door, or they know you're in there and they're trying to get in, make sure you've got some sort of escape plan. Make sure you've got a route out the back door, out of an emergency door, emergency exit through a window, whatever you can think of. So that's what I would consider. There's strength in numbers, obviously. So mutual assistant groups is a good idea with things like this. But what can you carry weaponry-wise is the main question. So when we talk about range in the UK and legally owning, you're looking at air rifles, which the power restrictions, you're probably not going to kill anyone. You're probably really going to hurt them and keep them back a bit. So it's a good deterrent. Air pistols, air rifles, and archery, like longbows, composite bows, and crossbows. Now, for me, for end of the world situation, a crossbow is probably the best option out of them, purely because, unless you're a skilled archer, hats off to you, but I've not got that ability. So a crossbow is much easier for me to point and roughly shoot, and you can add a sight to it, scope, everything like that. The accessories you can add on it can almost make it idiot proof, where it's easy to cock, it's easy to fire, it's easy to aim, etc. Obviously you wouldn't want to enter a gunfight with it, but that's your best ranged option, I would say, in the UK. Some of the longbows are brilliant as well, especially because you can hunt with them. You cannot hunt in the UK with a crossbow at the moment in peace times, so just bear that in mind. So any practicing would have to be targets. Then when it comes to weapons and knives, there's a list. I'm going to link 2 government links in this video. If you're listening on Spotify, sorry, you'll have to find the links by going to YouTube, find it on there and click the links there. But there's a link, there'll be a link for the government site about selling, buying, carrying knives and weapons. It's all sorts of rules around it, over 18, etc. There's exceptions for religious reasons, such as the kirpan that some Sikhs carry. But the main thing we're looking at here is there is a list of banned weapons. So you don't want to, while we're in peace times, you don't want to be trying to purchase something that could get you in a lot of hot water. So make sure you look at this list. I'm not going to read it all out. It's very detailed. But there's things like baton, knuckle dusters, push dagger, sword stick, sword, zombie knife. Now, I say sword and zombie knife, but you know and I know we can buy swords and we can buy, inverted commas, zombie knife. But you've got to look at their definition on this site. So a sword, their version of a sword that is banned is a curved blade of 50 centimeters or over, based on a straight line distance from the top of the handle to the tip of the blade. So that's just the blade, and it's a curved blade. So you've got if you've got like a straight sword, like a cold steel one, doesn't matter, it's straight. So there's all sorts of things like that you've really got to study. And the reason I looked at this list is a friend of mine had a Rambo collector's knife, Rambo First Blood Part 2, I think it was. The actual full blade with the engraving on the side and the handle and stuff like that. And his neighbour was part of the police force and said that about zombie knives and stuff like that, and he'd seen this knife. So it basically scared him into destroying this knife, cut the blade completely off. So he's now got a case with the handle in, but if you take it out, there's no blade on it. So it's just a prop piece with the case and the handle, which, I mean, it must have been gutted to do. I couldn't have done it. But when you look at it, unfortunately, this officer didn't fully know the law. A zombie knife is a knife with a cutting edge, a serrated edge, right? And images or words suggesting it's used for violence. So that's the difference. You can have a knife like that as long as it doesn't say murder weapon on the side or kill, kill, kill down the side. You know, a zombie knife, you've got to look at what their stipulations are on this site and really check, because you might think, oh, I can't have a sword. It says I can't have swords. You're not allowed swords. So why is there so many retailers selling swords? Because it's this certain type. So look into that. There's lots of knives. I would strongly recommend, personally, for bug in, bug out SHTF, I will have a sword, something with larger reach, like a spear or a polearm, a Rambo knife, as it were, a combat knife, and a folding fishing style knife, which has got less than 3-inch blades, so you can actually carry that. It doesn't lock, so you can actually carry that out and about, part of an EDC. And the Mora knives, the crafting knives, they're superb. Can't recommend them enough. Even if you just sat there whittling around a fire with them, I absolutely love them. But yeah, don't be afraid of what some people say to you and cut up your very expensive Rambo knife when it's not the case. So, obviously, that's the start of an arsenal. So what have we got? We've got a crossbow. We've got some sort of longbow or composite bow for hunting. Then we've got our array of knives. Now, this is all very lethal. Now, lethal's not always the best idea. So have a look at non-lethal options. Like you can get sprays that are legal in this country, similar to the bear mace, but, you know, not quite as strong types of pepper spray. You can also get blunt force weaponry. Now, that is as deadly as a knife, but depends on yourself. You know, you can hurt somebody with a bat, but you could kill somebody with a bat. So that's down to the user at the end of the day. Now, it is worth mentioning, if you have a baseball bat in the house, make sure you've got a baseball and a baseball glove as well. That gives you a good reason to have a baseball bat in the house. If you just got baseball bats next to every door and somebody tries to get in, it's not going to be classed as reasonable force that you had all these baseball bats lying around. Same with golf clubs. Don't have golf clubs, but never play golf and never have any golf balls. You know, common sense needs to come into play a bit while we're in peace times. Obviously, Teotihuacan, every man for himself, them laws aren't really going to apply. So what is reasonable force in the UK? I just want to quickly go over this so we don't push anyone into anything wrong. You can use reasonable force to protect yourself or others if a crime is taking place inside your home. Now, this means you can protect yourself in the heat of the moment, this including using an object as a weapon, or to stop an intruder running off, for example, tackling them to a ground. I'm not sure when you tackle someone to the ground for running off, because then you can't detain them, because that would be kidnapping. So that's a bit backwards. Again, I will link this site. This is all government guidelines. So there's more details on this, but there is no specific definition of reasonable force, it does say. It depends on the circumstances, of course. If you only did what you honestly thought was necessary at the time, this would provide very strong evidence that you acted within the law. So there's further guidelines. You can go into that and look further. But between the lines, make sure you're looking at it says reasonable force to protect yourself or others if a crime is taking place. Not protect property, not protect boundaries, like the threshold of your door, your garden, somebody breaking into your car. It's purely based on personal protection. So keep that in mind during peace times, of course. Again, I'll link that in the YouTube video, but yeah. So that's basically the strategy of weaponry. Obviously, we talked about securing your house. There's loads of different ways you can do that. I would recommend security that is physical strength to open security, not poxy window alarms that were just going to make a loud noise. Because yes, during 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's going to alert somebody and somebody's going to say something. But if half the world's on fire around you, no alarm's going to do you any good because nobody's coming. Think personal protection and survival for as long as possible. Worst case scenario, how do I get away, get out safely? Or how do I let them in or let them break in, ransack it and leave without knowing I'm here? Hiding is a massive thing if you can do that. So I think that's covered. The last thing I will mention is personal protective gear. Now, we don't need safety goggles when we're using our ferrous rod. But now with military surplus suppliers and things online, it's very easy to get yourself a stab vest. It's very easy to get yourself a strong helmet. Anything like, you might not want to walk around the house in the helmet, but you know, if you've got to run to the shops and there's riots going on, suddenly it might look a bit more appealing. But these things are no longer like rare to get. You can pick them up at most survival places and most surplus places. So bear in mind, you're not going to go out and get a full bulletproof suit, but take necessary precautions and make sure, especially in this country when it comes to knife crime and stuff like that, make sure you're sensible with things like that. Remember the golden rule as well. If you're in a situation where fighting's not an option, run away from a blade, but you run towards a gun. Now, it might sound crazy to some, but I was told this a long time ago, and it's based on if you run away from somebody aiming a gun at you, they've got clear line of sight, they can shoot at you. So in the heat of the moment, if they're close enough, run towards them. You know, not ideally not in a perfectly straight line, but go towards them. You reduce the target, you tackle your assailant. With a knife, run away. They only can chase you, so just get away that way. Anyway, that's my ramble. It's just a short one this week. Hopefully we'll be able to get some more guests on soon. But that is the Prepper podcast for personal defense. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.